Welcome everyone! In today's video, we'll follow the journey of a young man as he helps a family build a home on the edge of a scorching desert forest. Watch closely to see the creative ways he tackles this challenge, and make sure to stay until the end to admire the incredible result. To begin the construction, he first erected a sturdy wooden frame that would outline the walls of the house. This framework served as the backbone, giving shape and direction to the entire structure. Once it stood firmly in place, he started collecting large and small stones, carefully arranging them along both sides and the back of the house. The stones were laid out with precision, each one chosen to fit tightly with the next, ensuring the walls would be strong enough to withstand the desert winds and the burning heat of the sun. To hold everything together, they mixed mud into a thick, heavy paste, spreading it between the stones and stacking them layer upon layer. Once the walls were firmly in place, he moved on to the next stage, constructing the frame for the roof. Using long, sturdy wooden beams, he carefully measured and secured them across the top of the structure. Each beam was positioned with precision, forming a solid framework that would later support the roofing materials. After completing the roof frame, he prepared to continue with the front section of the house. This time, he mixed an even stronger binding mixture, carefully blending mud with natural materials to create a thick, sticky mortar. With this mixture ready, he turned his focus to the front wall, ensuring it would be both sturdy and well sealed. For the front section, he decided to use bricks to build the wall. One by one, the rectangular bricks were carefully laid in place, each row resting firmly on top of the other. With steady hands, he applied the binding mixture between every layer, making sure the wall was strong and even. Slowly, the front wall began to rise higher, transforming from just a line of bricks at the base into a solid barrier that completed the face of the house. To create a window frame, he cleverly repurposed an old wooden wheel, setting it firmly into the wall. The circular shape of the wheel added both strength and uniqueness to the design, allowing light and air to pass through, while giving the house a distinctive look. Once the wheel was secured in place, he continued stacking bricks around it, carefully shaping the wall so that the window blended seamlessly into the structure. As the front wall gradually neared completion, the structure began to take on its final solid form. Once the bricks were firmly set around the window, he carefully removed the wheel that had been used as a mold. Slowly, the round shape of the window appeared, perfectly framed within the brick wall. The circular opening not only added character to the house, but also allowed natural light to pour in, giving the home a warm and inviting touch. With this step, the front wall stood proudly finished, marking another milestone in the journey of building the house. The surrounding walls were also raised higher, gradually enclosing the entire structure and giving the house a more complete form. As he worked, he paid close attention to detail, carefully building small recessed compartments into the walls. These built-in niches would later serve as practical storage spaces, neatly hidden within the structure itself. With each brick laid and every niche shaped with precision, the walls not only grew stronger, but also more functional, turning the simple house into a thoughtful and well-designed living space. At last, the walls of the house were fully completed, rising strong and steady on every side. They enclosed the structure completely, wrapping it in a protective shell that gave the home both strength and shape. What had once been just a wooden frame was now surrounded by solid walls, firmly standing against the desert winds and heat. With the walls secure, he turned his attention to the roof. At the top of the house, he carefully arranged the wooden beams, placing them along the ridgeline to create a solid foundation for the roofing. Each beam was measured and installed precisely, ensuring that they were evenly spaced and strong enough to support the weight above. This wooden lattice not only gave stability to the structure, but also prepared the house for the final roofing layer that would shield it from the harsh sun and sudden desert rains. After securing the wooden beams, he spread a large sheet of tarpaulin across the roof, creating a protective cover. Inside, in one corner of the house, he began constructing a stove. Using stones and mud, he carefully stacked each layer one on top of the other, shaping it into a sturdy cooking space. What made it unique was the way he built it tier by tier, resembling a multi-layered cake. Each level was arranged with precision, giving the stove both strength and an unusual eye-catching design. This simple yet clever creation would not only serve as a place to cook meals, but also add character to the interior of the home. Inside the house, he began smoothing mud over the walls, coating them carefully from top to bottom. With each handful of wet clay, he pressed and spread it evenly across the surface, sealing the gaps between the stones and bricks. This layer not only strengthened the walls, but also gave the interior a more polished and uniform appearance. As the mud dried, it formed a natural plaster that would help insulate the home, keeping it cooler during the hot days and warmer through the cold nights. Slowly, the rough stone walls transformed into smooth, protective surfaces, making the inside of the house feel more complete and inviting. On top of the stove, he built the chimney higher, carefully stacking stones and sealing them with mud so the smoke could rise and escape safely outside the house. Once the chimney stood tall and secure, he returned to the unfinished sections of the walls. With patient hands, he spread more layers of mud across the surfaces, sealing every gap and smoothing out the rough edges. Inside the house, he began working on the floor. First, he poured in a mixture of soil and small stones, spreading it evenly across the ground to create a firm and level surface. This layer not only strengthened the floor, but also made the interior cleaner and more comfortable to walk on. With the flooring complete, he turned his attention to the entrance. Carefully, he fitted a sturdy wooden door into the frame, securing it in place as the main doorway of the house. When the door finally swung open and shut with ease, the home felt more private, safe, and truly ready to be lived in. As night slowly fell, the desert air grew cooler and the sky turned deep with the colors of dusk. The family began moving some of their belongings inside, just enough to settle in for the night. They spread out simple mats across the freshly finished floor, preparing a place to rest after a long day of building. In the corner, the young woman lit a fire, the flames crackling gently and casting a warm glow across the room. The heat from the fire pushed back the evening chill, filling the new home with both warmth and comfort. It was a humble beginning, but for the family, it marked their very first night in the shelter of their own house. The next morning, as the sun rose over the desert, they resumed their work with renewed energy. The temporary tarpaulin that had covered the roof was carefully removed, making way for the final roofing to be installed. But before placing the roof covering, they focused on the details that would shape the house's character. A wooden frame for the window was measured and fitted neatly into the wall, ensuring that the opening was secure and ready to welcome both sunlight and fresh air. With this step completed, the house moved one step closer to becoming a true and lasting home. On the roof, they carefully began laying long wooden planks across the rafters, covering the entire surface one by one. Each plank was lifted, adjusted, and firmly placed in place, gradually forming a solid layer over the frame below. The process was time-consuming and laborious, but with each added piece, the roof became stronger and more defined. The planks lay close together, but with small gaps between them, creating narrow openings through which sunlight filtered. Down below, inside the house, he returned to the walls to give them a more finished look. Once again, he prepared a fresh batch of mud and carefully spread it across the surfaces, coating the walls with a second smoother layer. This time, he worked with greater precision, pressing the mud firmly into every gap and smoothing it evenly so the surface became cleaner and more polished. Along the edges and corners, he traced neat, straight lines, aligning the finish with the natural edges of the structure. Each wall slowly transformed from rough and rugged into well-defined, solid surfaces, giving the interior a sense of order and refinement. With this careful touch, the home no longer looks just built for survival, but also for comfort and beauty. With the walls now coated in 2 full layers of mud, their appearance changed completely. What had once been rough stone and uneven surfaces was transformed into smooth, even walls. The finish looked clean and refined, giving the interior a neat and polished character. At the front of the house, they began working on the entrance, carefully building a frame around the edge where the floor of the house met the ground. This step was important to define the boundary of the doorway and to strengthen the structure where people would pass through every day. Once the frame was in place, they turned their attention to the pathway leading in and out of the house. To make movement easier and more comfortable, they started preparing a small staircase. One by one, steps were planned and shaped, rising gently from the ground up to the front floor. One by one, he carefully placed each stone, arranging them with patience and precision. Every stone was chosen to fit snugly into its place, forming a strong and stable surface. To make sure the structure held firmly, he sealed the gaps with mud, pressing it tightly so that no space was left open. Slowly, the steps began to rise solid and secure, each layer locked neatly into the next. With every stone added, the staircase grew stronger, promising to support countless footsteps in and out of the home for years to come. These steps not only made access to the house convenient, but also gave the entrance a welcoming, well-structured look. With the addition of the staircase, the house began to feel more complete, as if inviting the family and guests to step inside and make it a true home. He then prepared for the next stage of construction by mixing a new batch of cement. Carefully pouring in the powder and adding water, he stirred the mixture until it reached a thick, workable texture. This fresh cement would act as a strong adhesive, ready to bind stones and bricks securely together. Next, he used cement to coat the front wall of the house, spreading it evenly across the surface to create a stronger and smoother finish. With careful strokes, he worked the cement into place, covering every gap and giving the wall a clean, polished look. But he didn't stop there. To add detail and character, he began tracing neat lines across the surface, shaping them into the outlines of rectangular bricks. Bit by bit, the plain cement wall transformed into a patterned design, resembling rows of neatly laid bricks. This touch not only reinforced the wall, but also gave the front of the house a decorative and refined appearance. He also paid close attention to the details around the openings of the house. Along the edges of the window and the main door, he carefully applied raised cement borders, outlining the frames with precision. These embossed lines not only strengthened the structure, but also gave the openings a sharper, more defined look. The window appeared rounder and more distinct, while the doorway stood out with a sense of depth and solidity. With these finishing touches, the simple house began to carry a more refined character, showing both strength and craftsmanship in every detail. Once the cement coating had dried, he added a final touch of color to bring the front wall to life. With a brush in hand, he painted the entire surface in a warm shade of yellow. Each stroke spread evenly across the cement, covering the gray with a vibrant, welcoming tone. The golden color stood out brightly under the sunlight, making the house look cheerful and full of warmth. With a steady hand, he outlined the patterns on the wall in black, tracing along the edges of the brick shapes and borders. Inside the house, they prepared another fresh batch of cement, mixing it carefully until it reached a thick and workable texture. With buckets of the mixture ready, they began pouring it across the floor, spreading it evenly from corner to corner. Using simple tools, they leveled the surface, pressing and smoothing the cement until it formed a flat, solid layer. Bit by bit, the rough soil and stone beneath disappeared under the clean, uniform finish. This step not only strengthened the foundation of the home, but also made the interior far more comfortable and practical, turning the bare ground into a proper floor that marked a big step toward completion. At the front of the house, they began preparing to build a protective fence that would surround the property. Before assembling it, each section of the fence was carefully painted in a rich brown color, giving the wood a natural yet refined look. The same shade was also applied along the edges of the walls, creating a harmonious contrast with the bright yellow surface. The warm brown tones blended beautifully with the earthy surroundings, while also highlighting the details of the house's design. This step not only protected the wood from weathering, but also added character, making the front of the home feel both welcoming and well cared for. Once the painting was done, they carried the wooden panels to the front of the house and began setting them firmly in place. One by one, the fence posts were secured into the ground, then connected with horizontal beams to form a sturdy frame. Slowly, the wooden boards lined up side by side, enclosing the front porch in a neat and protective barrier. The new fence not only marked the boundary of the home, but also gave the entrance a sense of order and safety. Standing in front of the bright yellow walls and brown accents, The wooden fence added charm and warmth, turning the porch into a welcoming space where the family could relax and feel at ease. Inside the house, once the floor had set firmly, they spread out soft mats across the surface. The simple fabric covered the newly finished cement floor, adding warmth and comfort to the interior. With each mat carefully laid in place, the space began to feel more homely, inviting, and ready for daily living. The once bare and cold floor was now softened, making it a pleasant spot for the family to sit, rest, and gather together. To make the interior more comfortable, they stretched a large piece of fabric across the ceiling, covering the entire underside of the roof. The cloth was pulled tight and secured neatly along the edges, creating a smooth and uniform surface overhead. This simple layer not only hid the wooden beams and gaps of the roof, but also gave the room a cleaner, cozier appearance. The fabric acted as insulation as well, helping to soften the heat during the day and keeping the space warmer at night. With the ceiling now covered, the inside of the house felt more finished, calm, and truly like a home. To complete the front of the house, he turned his attention to the porch and staircase. Mixing another batch of cement, he carefully spread it across the outer surface, coating both the porch floor and the steps leading up to the entrance. With steady hands, he pressed and smoothed the mixture, filling every gap and giving the surfaces a uniform, polished look. The fresh layer of cement not only strengthened the structure, but also protected it from weathering, ensuring that the entrance would remain durable over time. Once the gray surface dries, the facade of the house looks clean, solid, and well finished. And with that, the house is finally complete. Thank you for joining him on this journey and witnessing every step of the build. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe so you won't miss the next adventures. Goodbye for now, and see you again in the upcoming videos.